Hello and welcome to the Red Devil Review. That is what we agreed to call it, isn't it, William?
Yeah.
It is excellent. And this is going to be a short podcast about all things Manchester United that will hopefully come out around every week or whenever we have a match. And obviously in the international break, we'll probably just invent transfer gossip or something to talk about because I hate international football personally.
I concur, yes.
And I don't really care about how Man United players are doing on international football either.
As long as they're not injured.
Yeah, as long as they're not injured, obviously. So, hello there. So William's decided, given that this is our inaugural podcast, to celebrate it by deciding to eat an apple the second we start recording. Isn't that true, William?
Yeah.
He took it upon himself to decide he was going to start eating an apple. So I'm going to be doing most of the talking until that's over. So let's start with the first thing, which is actually me asking William a question he's going to spend a lot of time answering, which is the whole idea about us. We've just bought a shite ton of players, everyone doesn't know, for a shite ton of money. And a lot of people are saying we lost our soul. You know, all these Gaalacticos coming in as they like.
I see what you did there.
No, I didn't do it. The Daily Mirror probably did it first. But we bought all these players. We bought like Angel Di Maria, Radamel Falcao, and other people, you know, shite like that. Brought them in, and a lot of people are saying we have lost our identity. You know, or they seem to think that for some reason that Danny Welbeck was the beating heart of our identity, and without Danny Welbeck, it is as if we have plucked the soul, indeed, from the mouth of the old man in the Russian folktale.
Personally, I don't see... That's very nice imagery. I don't see how a spine of Cleverley and Welbeck was somehow better than Di Maria and Falcao. I mean, words fail me to see the comparison of talent and quality. But, no, we're fine. I mean, Tyler Blackett's looking good. We've got a lovely set of young players coming through that are more than happy to probably take up the mantle of the new spine of Man United, even if it means getting Di Maria out of the team for whatever reason.
I think it's quite interesting because what is Manchester United's identity to people that aren't Manchester United fans? Because our identity is probably something along the lines of we create our own product, our youth team players or whatever, which is great, but if they're shit or they're not good enough to play for the first team by any stretch of the imagination, you're just hurting their careers and we're hurting our team. I mean, Cleverley, for example, could have a fine Premier League career somewhere else, but they're nowhere near good enough. I remember people kicking off when we sold Darren Gibson for a nominal fee to Everton. Where the fuck's he gone? Downhill. That's what Kieran Richardson, we had him. These people who are saying that we make our own players, they'd have us playing Chris Eagles and fucking Lee Martin if they had a choice. The other thing is, we played against QPR today with a centre-back partnership of Tyler Blackett and Johnny Evans. I think it's easy to think about someone like Johnny Evans, who's like 27, as not part of the youth academy. He obviously came through it, so until he retires, we're going to have a youth academy product. Another thing is Januzaj. Januzaj is one of the world's most exciting young players, but because he's got an Albanian-y name, people forget he's been in England since he was like 14 in our youth academy, so he's as much a youth product as Danny Welbeck. And the odd one is the fact that we sold Danny Welbeck so that we could give James Wilson a chance to get into the team. That's literally why we sold Danny Welbeck. It was to get someone better in Falcao, and so there's enough space for James Wilson to break through, who's another youth product, by the way.
Also, we've got to remember that of all the times of Danny Welbeck and Cleverley doing their tiki-taka football against Arsenal in the 8-2, we have to remember that Danny Welbeck has an appalling finish on him. Have you noticed in news reports that they keep saying, oh, we sold Welbeck, they keep showing the same goal from a year ago against Swansea.
It's the same goal that was
rather than some form of montage when Ronaldo is sold or something. So it doesn't matter if he's a striker. If you're a striker who can't strike, then you're just an
And it was, yeah. And also, Arsenal played the other day against Man City, and Welbeck tried to do exactly the same as what he did against Swansea, and he fucking failed. And everyone went, oh, this guy looks quite the player. If only he got a finish on him. We know he doesn't. That's why we fucking sold him. He's not 18. We sold him as 23. It's like, people trying to make the comparison with Sturridge. Because Sturridge was always good. It's just the Chelsea played him left wing or right wing, and he kept cutting inside, blazing out from 30 yards. But everyone knew he was a top class striker. Otherwise, Chelsea wouldn't have paid given him 40k a week when he's only played less than 20 times for Man City. Like, everyone knew his quality, and Welbeck has qualities, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't score against Switzerland. Although I would say make the point that he's not the second coming of Christ because he scored 2 tap-ins against Switzerland.
I concur.
But you don't. When you're Manchester United, you want someone who doesn't just score tap-ins. You want someone who's going to score like incredible goals or score from impossible angles. And apart from a fluky one against Sweden for England, I don't think Danny Welbeck's ever scored a goal where I thought, holy shit, that was good. Apart from on his debut against Stoke when he scored a 35-yarder. But apart from that, I can't imagine him scoring the winner in the Champions League final or anything like that. Or,
and your point about James Wilson, about how he's coming through and everyone's tipping him to be like Welbeck, only has a finish on him, can only be a good thing.
Absolutely. And also, it's a very weird situation because obviously if Arsenal had got Falcao on the final day and we'd kept Welbeck, we'd be talking about how Arsenal are going to win the league and how they've got the world's best striker. But because it's Manchester United and they sold Welbeck, apparently getting Falcao on loan is some sort of terrible mistake. Discuss. Yeah. I mean, it's unbelievable when you think about it.
I mean, if someone had told me at the end, when David Moyes got sacked, that, oh, don't worry, next year, your last week of deadline day will be signing Di Maria and Falcao, my first response wouldn't be, but what about the heart and soul of United? It would be, thank fuck for that, and glad we can start winning games again.
And also, so you got the first factor about the soul of Manchester United, which is the idea that we create our own youth products. The second is attacking football. Well, Moyes already destroyed that by playing awful defensive football for an entire year. And towards the end, at Ferguson, we weren't playing very pragmatic stuff with Ferguson since we sold Ronaldo and Tevez, because we had to in order to win. So you could argue their heart and the whole Manchester United identity, playing attacking football, is already down the shitter anyway. And the third one is that we are a massive commercial giant when it comes to... I mean, we're massive whores. When people know about Manchester United and they don't know about football. You know, there are people who use Manchester United as a place name in the same way that you would use, for example, like the Chicago Bulls or the Boston Red Sox or something as like a big...
Chicago Bears.
No, Bulls in basketball.
Oh, right.
Yeah. The New York Yankees, like these big teams of other sports. They're like, you don't really follow, like, if you don't know the sport, you know them basically. So the fact that we finished 7th last season doesn't stop us being one of the biggest teams in the world, because people who know about Manchester United there are people who don't even know the league, following the league. They probably couldn't name you that. Some of them probably couldn't even name the teams that finished ahead of us. Or the teams that we, are on goal difference near about. So, I mean, that's the sort of level we're talking. So that identity's down the shitter as well, unless we bought big. You need to have people, star names. People expect, like, people on the international scale, people like Di Maria and Falcao are big names. And the other thing is, Di Maria was sold by Real Madrid because he wasn't a big name in their eyes. They bought James Rodriguez, darling of the World Cup. They bought in Bale. They bought Toni Kroos, the World Cup winner. Di Maria was sold to us, same as Ozil was sold to Arsenal, because he's not a big name. So if anything, we're buying world-class players, regardless of how many shirts they'll sell, in that sense.
Also, in one aspect, one could also say that we are quite fortunate now, because we now have a plethora of talent in terms of fullbacks. Because we've historically, since Gary Neville was about 33...
Yeah.
He was quite crap and he was injured. We had an inexperienced Raphael or John O'Shea. And now we've got Shaw and Raphael getting better, and we've still
got Valencia though. Who is
Valencia. No, Ashley Young is worse.
There's
but
X, just because X is worse than Y doesn't mean Y isn't shit. So
no, they're both crap, but Ashley Young is a new class of crap. But yeah, we have a wealth of talent that we can put on.
I just noticed there was like a silence. I just noticed there was an awkward silence where I had nothing to say to that because it was obviously true.
But it's obviously true. Yeah. Why would you argue something that's gloriously true?
So go on, yeah.
The fullbacks we have allow us to play with a 4-4-2 competently, because our centre backs aren't good enough to play with 3 in the back. Because although we've got Rojo and we've got what's his face? Blackett, that's the one.
Oh, Blackett, yeah.
As centre backs, we don't have that third centre back unless Phil Jones is told explicitly that you have to run forward like you always want to, and put the ball into midfield, because he clearly could do that, but he's for some reason ignoring that and deciding to become a right back.
Yeah, and we played Vermeil in this 3-5-2. We played Michael Keane. We played youngsters, and then they got absolutely dicked on because they weren't good enough. And then everyone was like, ha, Man United shit. And it was like, well, obvious. What do you want us to do? Do you want us to play our young players and then give them a chance? Or do you want us to not play them? I mean, it was confusing, really. And also, Anders Pereira made the bench, I would say. Before we move on to QPR game, he made the bench. And we've got James Wilson, obviously, that's definitely going to have a future. Pereira's going to have a future. Dimitri Mitchell, apparently.
Also, in the first game of the season, we played Lingard at right wing back,
which would indicate that we prefer him to Valencia or Ashley Young, which is very encouraging.
Also, considering how that doesn't contradict the idea that we give youth a chance, considering that we gave youth a chance repeatedly.
And you could also say that while that is also part of the identity, one of the principal ideas of the identity of Manchester United
winning games.
It's being that really annoying team that wins everything, even though it's completely unfair and they're arseholes and they take so much time at corners and all Fergie time and all this sort of crap. That's Manchester United's identity, is the team that will just find a way to win when it looks like they're not going to win, much to the chagrin of everyone around.
Do you want to say that not like you haven't?
No, I really insist chagrin. Yeah, so everyone's absolute. But the whole point of Manchester United is they're basically like the baddie that wins at the end of the movie. That's essentially what it is. That's what they are to other people. You come to Manchester United, you're like, oh, we've got 1-0 lead here. No, it's not going to happen. The dream is dead. We're dream killers. That's the point.
Considering that the Glazers all look like they could play Phantom of the Opera, this could very much well benefit us, because of course they are the money of evil. Backing.
Yeah, it's like we're like the fucking Empire
in Star Wars.
In Star Wars, exactly. That's the whole point. Manchester United are supposed to be the people. Oh, not you cunts again, winning the league or whatever. That's why people were cheering an oil baron rather than, educate the children of his of his nation or alleviate poverty in his region. Bought Sergio Aguero and won the league in added time, but people hate Man United so much that rather than see how ludicrous that is, they were celebrating like there was no tomorrow because Man United just lost the league. So that's the level we're at, basically, where the oil baron money team can be the underdogs that people support in this situation. That's Man United.
And then if they want a bit of variation, they can go support Chelsea with their oil baron in charge.
Well, absolutely, that's fine. I mean, that's the point. That's the point of it, really. And football has got more money in it. The idea that Man United are a team that basically we're not Ajax, we're not Sporting Lisbon, because the reason that Ajax bring up players is explicitly in their manual. The reason they bring up players is so they can sell some of them more for higher prices, and that money goes back in the youth system. We're not a selling club. Ajax are explicitly a selling club. It's in their manifesto. Same with Sporting Lisbon. They're explicitly a selling club. They bring these players through. Any other players that they can acquire, they acquire on the cheap with an intent to sell, often with third parties involved, hence Marcus Rojo's deal taking the dawn of time to finish. We're not a selling club. We're not supposed to be a selling club. If you have players who are good enough to get into the academy, it's because they're fucking sick, and they get into the team because they are sick. It's like Barcelona's youth academy products.
Yeah.
They have to be Barcelona quality to get in the side.
Which is
why you get people like Mikel Arteta, who's a Barcelona academy product, and Pepe Reina being sold. Because that's the quality of players they can let go.
They're not good enough, no.
So I think the whole idea of us losing our identity is fucking stupid, because our identity involves being a ridiculously good club with all these sick players. And the fact that the money's in football doesn't change our identity, because we're absolute whores and we treat the fans like shit anyway.
And again, if you want to say that the heart of Manchester United has been ripped out by removing Cleverley, then that's just inaccurate.
Get a new heart.
That's just inaccurate. That's just really
it seems
wrong.
to be it's more about Danny Welbeck than anything else, isn't it? Because for some reason Danny Welbeck, like missing chances.
I don't know why, but
Mancunian is apparently.
It might be an England thing as well, because Welbeck's always been he's been the mainstay of the England squad, whereas there's more competition in midfield and centre mid for England. So Cleverley's not particularly seen as a good, solid England player, whereas Welbeck's seen as one of the better England strikers ahead of people like Jermaine Defoe, which is silly because Defoe's much better.
Yeah, but Defoe deserves to never be in the squad for going to Toronto and then bitching like a little girl and getting to the World Cup squad. What does he expect?
Not quite.
Enjoy Canada, mate.
Enjoy.
So, before we move on, we bought Shaw to replace Evra, Marcus Rojo to replace Ferdinand, Blind to replace Owen Hargreaves a decade too late, Ander Herrera to replace Cleverley, Angel Di Maria to replace hopefully all of our wingers at the same time, and Falcao to replace Welbeck. We've actually, as Van Gaal noted, sold more than we've bought, but a lot of those players were reserves like Bebe and Tom Lawrence.
Bebe was crap.
Yeah, but I like the fact he scored all these wonder goals. It's really funny. A lot of gifs on Reddit of Bebe just slamming them in. It's pretty fun. He was never good enough for us, but I hope he has a really cool time at Benfica and actually, delivers on the potential apparently he has. So that'd be pretty cool. But the point being that we've got a smaller squad because we're not in the Champions League. It's a squad that can do all kinds of different things, got a lot of versatility now, which we didn't have before. Still crap at the back.
Yes.
But Phil Jones has played well before.
Crap at the back? I mean, I can think of individual players who were crap at the back, but we've got quite a solid Premiership defence. We could probably finish in Europa League. I see
us where Liverpool were last year, in the sense that we could probably mount a title race, but that centre back
partnership.
Those centre backs are not good enough. We needed Benatia, but he went to Bayern. That's the sort of level we needed. Maybe Hummels was never going to leave Dortmund because
No.
Dortmund are sick and he's like the captain, if I recall correctly. Or is it?
Possibly, I think he might be.
I don't think he's. He may
Anyway,
be the
anyway,
captain
doesn't matter.
now, but it doesn't matter. But the point is that, like, yeah, we've still made a fantastic transfer window, and there's still January to come. Everyone's jizzing about the prospect of Strootman in January. I don't know what. I mean, we've been trying to get Strootman apparently for the last 4 years in January. Apparently, January is the time to get Strootman. Apparently, his agent only.
No, there's a young player that we're after, I think, who's quite important, called Gareth Bale, who we've been scouting for about 8 years.
How's he doing? Is it a left back? We don't need a left back.
No, we don't need a left back.
Still got Produce Evra, so that's.
And now we've got Luke Shaw, so it's fine.
So we never need a left back. So Gareth, sorry, I don't know who this Gareth is, but apparently we don't need you, so that's fine.
Enjoy the valleys.
I thought it was weird Javier Hernandez decided he'd had enough being a peripheral player at Man United, so he's gone on loan to Real Madrid, where he'll never get a game at all.
Yes. No, what will happen? It'll happen like Michael Owen, where he'll come on a couple of times, score a couple of goals, and then be sold because he doesn't play the Real Madrid way of, needlessly attacking every 5 seconds. So,
I think the problem with Javier Hernandez, I suppose you could say, is that he is just a one-note player, which is that he scores in the box. And at least Solskjaer had more versatility, and he was a team player. Although we'll get onto it later. But Rio Ferdinand said that Javier Hernandez leaving was mainly because of poor management from David Moyes, basically.
but he was a good poacher, and that's.
Oh, he scored some great goals for us. We should be grateful for that. But he definitely.
his backward header that was
against Stoke. That was particularly memorable. Yeah,
brave.
absolutely. So you finished your apple then, William?
Yes, I have. Yes.
So we can move straight on to the game now. Manchester United played good old Queen's Park Rangers, and Ari's team did not have the best of times, did they, William?
No, probably because they're crap and full with Tottenham rejects and ageing centre backs.
Yeah, they had Clint Hill. That was fucking original, wasn't it? Clint Hill at left back. I was like, attack that on that side. Unfortunately, that wasn't the side Di Maria was on. That was the side that Herrera was on.
And it doesn't matter. He scored, so it's fine.
Absolutely, it was a cracking game. So, 4-0.
Yes.
Di Maria scores.
Could have been 9.
Could have been 9. You'd hope there'd be a bit more. Van Gaal seemed pretty annoyed that we actually made more chances in the second half. We did in the first half, but I'd take any 3 points. I would have taken a 1-0. It's just important to move on and get.
No, I disagree. I would have taken a full absolute dicking because we needed some. 4-0 is probably fine, but if we had gotten like 6 or 7, that would have sent a message to the rest of the league. Like, hello, we're here. This is a new team. This is what we can do when we play, and also the fact that we just needed a good result to get the motivation back in the team and to prove that Van Gaal knows what he's talking about, because the last 4 or 5 weeks
Philosshophy.
all the crack pundits like Jamie Redknapp have been saying, I don't understand why he's playing this way, he doesn't understand. Probably because he didn't realise that having no centre backs, having a terrible defence and then trying to get it away from defence as quickly as possible, he didn't understand how that was a good decision. And he was just making the best of a bad situation. Admittedly, I wouldn't say I'm a fan of the 3-5-3, but it can 3-5-2, but it can definitely work.
Well, 3-5-3 would be great because you can play an extra player.
Yeah, exactly, 3-5-2, but it can work, and it's been proven to work. So, if we have the players and the squad depth, then I don't see why not.
Yeah, and the 3-5-2 seemed to be, again, as you said, a problem mainly produced by injuries and the fact that the defence was so shocking. But it worked in pre-season, and I would have to say, Van Persie's finishing, like, if he'd actually finished that shot by Di Maria against Burnley, we would have won that 1-0, and everyone would have been like, oh great, this is a good idea, grinding out wins. And we're still retaining obscene amounts of possession.
Yes.
It's just the fact that the defence have let us down. Like,
yes.
Evans was shocking against MK Dons. I mean, I would have personally sold him, so he must have shown something in training.
Yeah.
To indicate that he's worth keeping, because I do not have any time for him. I mean, he was alright today, but again, he was fucking up all over the place. He either wasn't calling. David De Gea had an uncharacteristically bad game, but we can forgive him that because he didn't concede for a start. Like, usually when keepers have bad games, they concede a stupid goal, but we avoided that because of Evans. Fair play to him. I was encouraged by the fact that the attack seemed to, like, we were just completely dominant in a way that I haven't seen since maybe not even Ferguson, but I would say like since Ronaldo left, I've never seen a team. A Man United team looked so dominant. We had like our back four was on the halfway line for large periods of the game, and Daley Blind was coming forward from defensive mid and having free to shoot from 30 yards and things like that.
It was also interesting to see how the 4-4-2 that we set out also did at times look like a 3-5-2, because we'd have Blackett and
total football. Oh, sorry, total football.
Yeah,
Philosshophy.
Okay, stop that. We'd have Evans.
He doesn't. When he stops it, I'll stop it.
Okay, Evans and Blackett were the defensive partnership, and then we'd have when we were on the attack, Rojo and Raphael would go forward as wingers on the overlap, but then
Rojo loves a crazy run.
And then indeed, but then you'd have Daley Blind slotting back into defence, so it was actually a three-person back three.
Back three, yeah, exactly.
And then in defence we'd have a back four with Blind screening. So that was incredibly good to see.
And Blind's been really good, and everyone's saying he's the unsung hero, but because everyone's saying it, he's not the unsung hero. Because although
that defensive decision worked, we mustn't take any away from the fact that QPR's offence is awful.
Yeah, I was going to say in this post-Carrick era where we can see the players.
This post-Carrick era.
Well, no, because Carrick
got an epoch of dinosaurs.
Well, no, because Carrick got a lot of stick for doing nothing, and then people actually started watching what Carrick does and going, "Oh, look, screening players are actually useful in this modern game." So Blind's come straight in. He's going to get no criticism whatsoever because everyone's specifically looking for a Carrick replacement, and Blind seems to be doing the job. So now we can safely know that we're not going to randomly ridicule players who are doing a job they've been paid to do.
Yes.
Which is nice. And going forward, it seems like Di Maria actually looks like that's a terrible mistake by Real Madrid, because I would wager, although he's older, Di Maria's coming into the peak of his powers now, and Di Maria is probably better than Cruz, I would say.
Yeah,
I'm not really sure why they bought. I mean, Toni Kroos is an incredible player, but why sell Di Maria, risking unstabilising your team? This is a guy who he was your man of the match in the Champions League final, and best friends with your biggest commodity, Cristiano Ronaldo, and he got to the World Cup final, right? And was one of the better players.
Jamie, you don't understand. He didn't win the World Cup, and that is not the Real Madrid way. You need to be able to.
No, because you could win the World Cup, and that's not the Real Madrid way because you didn't win it beautifully enough.
No, you didn't. No,
so the German team probably crap for Real Madrid. So
yeah,
I don't know why they went for Cruz then, because
I have no idea.
Only won 1-0. So, but it seems an odd one because Ozil you could sort of understand in the sense that I was very much of the opinion that Ozil was like overrated. I wasn't particularly bothered about him going to Arsenal. I thought they were getting very excited about something that they didn't need. And that's sort of been proven, because after the initial honeymoon period, well, Shamak had an honeymoon period, who cares? He didn't really do anything. He's definitely got talent. He wasn't particularly good at the World Cup for Germany. He definitely looked a bit part player in that. Mertesacker was probably better out of the two Arsenal players for Germany. I thought that's embarrassing for Podolski. I actually completely forgot he existed for a second there.
I just deliberately ignored him.
Yeah, okay. So with Ozil, I got it, because a lot of his assists, while being absolutely fucking delicious, were passes to Ronaldo, then Ronaldo would take on two players and score.
Yes.
A lot of that happened a lot. Like if you actually watch when they signed him, they did like the Sky Sports montage. It was a lot of Ozil passes. Ronaldo always got to go, oh, amazing from Ozil, retrospectively. And there's a lot of that happening. And then the next season when he'd left, Di Maria got loads of assists. So it's generally my thing that whoever passes Ronaldo the most often will get the most assists in Europe.
Yeah, I mean, exactly that. I have nothing to add really.
I would say that Modric will probably get the best assists in Europe this season, because he's probably going to play most of the games and he'll pass to Ronaldo the most. So watch his space for that.
Or he'll pass to Bale, and then the assists will continue. But Ronaldo's goal scoring.
The secondary assist, I remember saying this because Modric didn't used to get assists, and everyone used to say, Tottenham fans used to tell me, Modric had the best secondary assist rate. Like, he'd put the ball that splits the defence, and then somebody else would get the easy tap in across or whatever. And yeah, he's been great for that. So Di Maria being sold was very bizarre to me, because at the time, even when he was linked with PSG, I was like, why are they selling Di Maria to PSG? That seems stupid.
Yes.
Why are you selling one of your best players for no reason? To fit in a player who, in my opinion, like James Rodriguez, great World Cup, whatever. But if he had a shit World Cup, he wouldn't have gotten to Real Madrid. Like he is a vastly inferior player to Di Maria.
Yes.
Vastly inferior to Bale and Ronaldo.
Yes.
I mean, he could get. I don't think he'll even get to that level personally. I mean, he seems like a great lad, but
it's probably too early to tell whether he's going to get to that level or not. But I mean, Di Maria is already at that level.
So
arguably, he's already.
What's the point of selling a player?
Obviously, there's a toss-up between Bale and Di Maria of who's the third best player in the world. Probably Bale, but Di Maria is not far behind. And I think he's definitely better than someone like Ribery, who is always considered as like, oh yeah, he's up there as well. Like, well, no, Di Maria is much better than him, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, and the other thing is that Di Maria looked like outstanding in an Argentina side that got to the World Cup final. That's pretty fucking impressive.
Yeah.
Side. And I always think about this. What if Falcao wasn't injured and he was at the World Cup?
Oh,
Colombia. Because Colombia, they literally bought James Rodriguez on the basis of the fact that he scored all the goals for Colombia. Well, Falcao would have scored all the goals.
No, because Real Madrid would have signed him on the assumption that he was the second coming of Christ or something. So.
No, because Falcao probably would have went for 120 million to Real Madrid if he'd got the World Cup Golden Boot or something. Definitely, because they wouldn't have it. They wouldn't have it any other way. So Falcao would.
But he wouldn't have been the best player at the World Cup, because we all know that would have been Lionel Messi anyway.
Oh, exactly, Lionel Messi. I was Portugal could have beaten Germany with a hat trick from Ronaldo in the World Cup final. That was going to Messi. They engraved that statue before the World Cup final. I reckon they thought he was going to win it. which is stupid because Germany were clearly the favourites. So happy with the performance, William. But what I would say as a caveat, as you've just said, is that QPR are shite.
Yes. I mean, if we can... I mean, our next challenge is Leicester away, so, again, they're not great. So if we do anything other than win... Initially, we're away, but if we do anything other than win, I'll be painfully surprised. But it'll be more of a challenge when we play someone like Tottenham at home, or someone like a decent team.
Because people forget Tottenham beat QPR 4-0 in QPR's last game.
And Pochettino is playing some very, very nice stuff with Tottenham. So we could have...
They're still Tottenhaming it up, though, away against Sunderland, like scoring their own goal.
Yes, but was that Michael Dawson?
No, it was Harry Kane. And Michael Dawson's at Hull now, isn't he?
Oh, yes, of course.
With all those lads.
I keep forgetting because, of course, every time Tottenham score an own goal, it always seems to be Michael Dawson for some reason.
Yeah, well, not for some reason, it's because he keeps throwing in his own goal.
Yeah, he keeps picking the ball up and throwing it in the goal. I don't understand. But yeah, I mean, as soon as we play a decent team, if we can get a decent, like, 2-0, 3-1 or something against a decent team at Old Trafford, then we can start saying, okay, now there is a renaissance, if you will. I don't know. I forgot the word then. I think
it's the quality of the performance rather than the fact that it was just QPR or something. Because it wasn't just beating QPR 4-0. It was the fact that we could have beaten them by more, and the fact that we completely dominated the game from start to finish. It wasn't a situation. It wasn't a routine victory, and we were too used to either routine victories under Ferguson or struggling in these teams, being nervous in front of the crowd, and not really knowing what we wanted to do. So drawing at home against Fulham, who were relegated and are absolutely awful, are currently in the relegation zone of the Championship, for example. We did that last season because we were scared. We looked fearful. We didn't really know what we were doing. We were relying on Ashley Young's crossing ability, which is like relying on the the density of jelly or something. Like, it's a completely pointless exercise. And that was the encouraging thing, because a lot of people are saying, like, why are people getting so excited? Why is Man United getting excited? It's because that's the sort of performance that a side looking to win the title would do against QPR at home. They would just win thoroughly easily, and the game's over, and you make the other team look shit.
Also, we have disgustingly good squad depth now. I mean, if you look at the signings we've got now, I mean, they could all easily fit into a starting 11. But then we also have a lot of players who are decent Premier League quality already that we had, and I mean, obviously, if you took at the players currently, that's excluding people like Rooney, Van Persie, Mata, like your quality Premier League players. But they could easily, obviously, there's competition now, so that's forcing people to improve and get better.
Yeah, because the biggest problem was people like Young and Valencia. I always saw them as players who had to play at their very best to be United quality. Because Ashley Young's had his days. I mean, 8-2 against Arsenal. He's played away against Tottenham, scored a wonder goal. Like, he scores the odd wonder goal. Valencia's first season was incredible. But they had to be playing at the peak of their powers in order to justify their place. Now, if they're not playing at the peak of their powers, they're not even on the bench. Whereas before, they'd get in anyway, and you just hope that they did it.
Yeah, and of course now left backs for all teams have noticed that Van Persie can only cross it when he's perilously close to the out of play.
The byline.
The byline, that's the one. That's the one. Yeah, and and as we saw against QPR, as soon as he cuts inside, he's useless.
What do you think about Van Persie? Because everyone's talking about Mata being dropped and Mata going to Juventus apparently, because apparently he can't have a squad, and but Van Persie's not been doing it particularly well. Presumably you'd say it's in the safest hands because Van Gaal's the manager that got him to do what he did against Spain in the World Cup, and like Van Persie trusts him and is happy to be benched by Van Gaal because he knows all about the philosophy and all that sort of crap. But on the other hand, this is a guy coming to the end of his career. He's on a massive contract. Seems like a selfish signing by Ferguson retrospectively now, doesn't it?
Yes, although to be honest, he still has the ability to finish expertly, and so he's got a good touch on him, from particularly over the shoulder balls from midfielders like Di Maria. But we've got Falcao now, and we've got Rooney, who admittedly Rooney can drop deep, but he obviously his first position is a striker. And of course,
a lot of people who aren't Man United fans seem to think Rooney can play number 10, but he can't. He's not creative enough to play number 10. True. He has to play up front.
The only thing he could possibly play is centre mid, pinging balls around, but he's not creative enough to do what Di Maria is doing.
Which is why he doesn't play well for England, because the only time he played well for England was an 18-year-old and he played the Michael Owen off the big man role essentially.
Also, got to remember that Hernandez is only on a loan, so he could easily light up La Liga. I doubt it.
Light up La
He could light up La Liga with some...
Better than Falcao will light up the Premier League and then return in a blaze of glory as the world's
Exactly.
greatest
And then
player.
when Van
As
Persie...
Football Manager 2008 will have you believe.
And when Van Persie doesn't score particularly many goals because he's losing his pace or whatnot, having a pacey poacher in the form of Hernandez might be quite useful.
That's true. I mean, it's true. I mean, I would argue that we're probably, same with Cleverley on loan, I would say that both those players are probably destined to leave, either to the clubs they're currently at or to other clubs. Because Hernandez obviously was linked with Southampton before Real Madrid came a knocking. So I wouldn't be surprised if Real Madrid were like, yeah, you did alright, just as Adebayor did alright, but you're not good enough for Real Madrid. We want to buy whoever the biggest striker in the world is. And at that point in time, so yeah, and then he'll probably end up at Southampton. He'll do really well. He'll probably be a replacement for Jay Rodriguez. He'll go to Tottenham. You heard it here now. Sky bet that now. I'm very excited. I'm a bit worried that Falcao, given he always seems to get teams Champions League football and then fuck off immediately, that he'll probably do incredibly well here and then he'll go to Real Madrid. Because he goes, I want to be a legend here or whatever, all that crap. But like, that's great. I mean, he's great. He seems like a really humble dude, and I've heard a lot about him, and because I've been reading like a crazy person about Falcao and how he's historically very humble and religious and like disciplined and all this sort of stuff. Obsessed with goals and all this. Well, which striker wouldn't be? If you're not obsessed with goals, you're a striker. Then you need to look at yourself in the mirror, Bobby Zamora. But yeah. So, but the thing is, if Barcelona, well, obviously wouldn't, but Barcelona seem to buy anyone they don't need, and Real Madrid came knocking next season after he scored 20 goals in the Premier League. Is he going to pick Real Madrid over Man United? I mean, he's going to have been part of a real team.
It depends.
Because real team formation, bonding.
It depends because, of course, if Van Persie is on this kind of downward part of his career, Van Gaal might say to him, if you come back, you'll be more of a fixture in the team. Whereas if you go to Real Madrid, it doesn't matter how good you are, in the case of Di Maria, exactly. It doesn't matter how good you are at football. If you don't play in the right way, even if it is counter-attacking and boring, you're sold immediately. So there's more sense of, I'd say there's more sense of stability at United.
I think we have the advantage of being
Real
the
Madrid's
club
more
that have him
erratic.
on loan. Yeah, so I think, but also I would say that because we're both big clubs, but you say obviously Real Madrid at the moment are a bigger team, but I'd also say that we have the advantage in the sense we have 12 months to convince Falcao his future's here. I mean, the only reason that, for example, Tevez went to Man City in the end is because Ferguson was benching him all the time. And I would say that's actually, rather than that Tevez being an arsehole, that's more that Tevez not being... I mean, you actually look back at that season, Tevez didn't play in the Champions League final, which we lost. He played like Ronaldo through the middle in the final, and like Tevez had to come on as a sub and play like wide right. It was bizarre. And also Tevez, like if you actually look at, he scored every time he played pretty much, but he only played like capital, I think it was Carling Cup, League Cup games basically, and FA Cup games against like Blackburn at home. He never got a chance in the big games, and that proved to be a terrible error because we couldn't afford to lose both of them. And Tevez definitely is better than Berbatov.
Yes.
Without question. That was evident then, and it's evident now.
Yeah.
I mean, if we still had Tevez now, he's only 30. That would have been great. So I think that was a terrible mistake, and I hope Falcao isn't another Tevez. In the sense that we show him how great he is, and then we start rotating him for the sake of it, and then he fucks off. Final thing we're going to talk about before we leave to wrap up this quite positive time. Actually,
has it been positive? We have criticised a lot of players, specifically Ashley Young, but in fairness, he is gash.
Everyone thinks Ashley Young is terrible. So
okay, that's fine. Okay,
that's Ashley Young thinks Ashley Young is terrible.
Ashley Young thinks he's not as good as Stuart Downing.
I'll give Ashley Young his credit. He probably knows he's shit. Nani thought he gave himself the name Super Nani, so he clearly thought he was literally a deity, which is a shame because actually, if he actually applied himself and tracked back, he would have been a cracking player.
Anyway,
but the final thing is Rio has decided, now that his career has come to an abrupt and embarrassing end, that he is going to burn all of his bridges. But thankfully, it's only the bridges full of shit, because he's going after David Moyes, describing him, according to the Daily Telegraph, as an amateurish manager with a small club mentality and savaging his tactical approach and the decision to ban pre-match chips for players. Don't really give a shit about that. But it says, in the most candid assessment to date of Moyes' 10 months at Old Trafford, Ferdinand ridiculed his decision to prepare for the match against Bayern Munich by rehearsing set pieces in a public park. He also claimed Moyes chose to betray United's proud tradition of wing play by instead relying on hopeful diagonal punts. Now, given that we're playing a diamond midfield technically without wingers, bit harsh, I would say. But
Actually,
what I would say...
no, I disagree, because when you see United come forward now under Van Gaal, Van Persie, particularly against QPR, Van Persie and Rooney went wide, and Mata came forward, so we had basically 3 up front. And so we wouldn't say we didn't have wingers, but we did have players wide, in wide positions. So we're bridging the gap between having wingers and playing narrow crap football under Moyes.
He says that the players genuinely didn't know what he wanted to do and it was all over the place and things like that. And that seemed very evident on the pitch.
It did seem to explain why they were crap for a year and they didn't know what they were doing. And then as soon as he left, we're actually playing some very sexy
No, but we weren't.
stuff.
No, but I would disagree. I would say that we still played crap under Giggs, apart from one game.
Oh, no, sorry. I forgot about Giggs. Because, we didn't... Our season was already over. As soon as
How could you forget about Giggs being the manager, William? That's embarrassing.
I'm so sorry.
It's going on the internet. People are going to
I know.
castigate you for that.
The flame wars will begin.
Yeah, well, no, it'll just be one way, just traffic if you're being harangued by the 7 people that listen to this.
Yeah.
But yeah, the thing what annoys me about this more than anything is the fact that Rio Ferdinand's career is clearly coming to an end. He's clearly going to be a bit part player. Why is he shocked that Moyes stops playing him? Why is he shocked he's not playing against Bayern Munich? Why is he appalled by the fact that he's not good anymore? It was quite clear he was being rested more and more. He was being pulled out of the big games. Like Evans and Vidic was going to be,
I mean, Vidic was, I'd say, on the way down as well. But
Vidic had a terrible season.
Ferdinand was already down, and they were very good at positioning. But if someone put a ball over the top, anyone with a brief amount of pace could have got past them.
The Moyes debacle had its lasting effects in that we lost Vidic, who probably would have been happy to be a backup, and pretty much indicated that with his eyes in an interview with Jeff Shreves or whatever his name is, that he probably would have stayed if he knew Moyes was going. But Welbeck handed in a transfer request under Moyes. Hernandez apparently did. Other players were unhappy. We seemed to panic buy. I mean, Fellaini was a terrible decision to buy him, although I particularly rate him. Mata, retrospectively, was a completely pointless acquisition, although I also rate him highly, and I'm happy we've got him now, because he's with a manager who knows how to use him. It seemed an odd one. Moyes has come out saying it was about the club. The club promised him the talk of Fabregas, Bale, Ronaldo coming back, but all that was bullshit, and he ended up with no players. It clearly isn't that difficult to get players better than the quality we had. His obsession with Baines and Fellaini, when neither of those players...
And they already said... Well, I mean, Baines had already said he wasn't going to go anywhere.
Absolutely. So and Baines having a great time at Everton, and why would he risk that? And also, Baines is currently into his peak, and he's nowhere near as good as Evra was.
Yeah, but Evra was still playing for us.
I mean, Evra was doing poorly, but you needed to replace Evra with someone at least as good as Evra. So... Again, pointless. Go out and look at the market. I mean, it's not hard to find players, and that's the thing. It's like when Van Gaal said you can sign a player in 24 hours, as in Woodward, hurry up. But at least Woodward delivered, because it was quite clear that Van Gaal had some players that he wanted to sign. I mean, they got Daley Blind. We went from not signing Rojo to getting Rojo in about 3 days.
Yeah.
The Daley Blind deal started as a fabrication of the Daily Mail, and then suddenly it was happening, and suddenly within 2 days we had him. Or at least he was in Manchester doing a 4-day. I don't know what his medical entailed, a full rectal scan or something, because it was 4 days medical, but...
Oh, don't you know, it's new Premier League rules, you have to have an anal probe before you sign the paperwork.
Well, Clay, no wonder Falcao took ages.
Well, quite.
So it's shown the ease at which you can... I mean, the world-class players, Angel Di Maria, I mean, Woodward's still incompetent, but we got Angel Di Maria, for fuck's sake. We got Falcao, for fuck's sake. And I think the thing is that David Moyes... I mean, Ferguson was always the big boy in Britain, and people knew Man United were a big club, and if there was any big player in Britain that was emerging, we'd get him. I believe that if Ferguson had stayed at Manchester United, we could have got Bale. I reckon we could have got Bale, and I reckon we probably would have got Fabregas as well. But with Moyes there, why would you leave? You're not working under one of the best managers of all time. Van Persie was willing to leave Arsene Wenger's Arsenal when he's the best player and the captain to join Man United because of Ferguson, and he explicitly said that. Bale would go, I was offered Real Madrid or whatever, But they're obviously they're an amazing team. But Man United came along and Alex Ferguson was like, "You're the next Giggs," or whatever. I think that deal could have happened. Fabregas being like the chance to work with Arsene Wenger, Van Persie, obviously they're influential. Yeah, let's win another title, right? But with Moyes there, what have you got to offer me?
Well, that's a good point. Because obviously Moyes had no experience of winning silverware, and then as soon as we get Van Halen, who is renowned for being a trophy-winning coach and of course insane, then he's just like Ferguson.
Yeah, but the one thing I would say to return to this, it doesn't matter how bad Moyes was, it's still absolutely ridiculous to start while you're at QPR kicking off about him. Like, I'm not sure it's particularly wise about to start going off discrediting managers, because for all you know, David Moyes is going to be the manager of Newcastle soon, or he's going to be the manager of West Brom soon, and he might be orchestrating a victory over your terrible defending, Rio, and you're going to undermine your legacy as one of the greatest centre-backs that England and Manchester United have ever had, because everyone's going to remember you as a moaner that had a YouTube channel. And that is something you don't want, because he had some serious things to say, because he was talking about, just a few days ago, he was talking about, Rio was talking about John Terry being, never apologising to him and not talking to Ashley Cole because he, sold out his brother. These are serious issues about our society and racism in football and in the wider public context about the fact that these rich people get away with saying anything and not even having to apologise. And the next day he's like, oh, David Moyes was a cunt. Took away our chips. And bench me just because I'm crap.
How dare he bench me because I'm crap? How bloody dare he?
I mean, I'd get it. If Rio Ferdinand was 26... in the peak of his powers, and David Moyes was like, oh, can you be more like Phil Jagielka? Then I'd be like, well, this is ridiculous. But Phil Jagielka is objectively better than Rio Ferdinand now, which doesn't say a lot, because Rio Ferdinand's pretty piss poor, and I don't particularly rate Phil Jagielka. But Phil Jagielka, under Moyes, peak of his powers as an England centre-back. Rio Ferdinand is not a Manchester United reserve centre-back anymore, and he had the audacity to go, oh, this guy, blah, blah, blah. If it was, Rooney kicking out... Rooney didn't complain that much. Granted, he got a new contract. But
that was done deliberately, though.
But Rio Ferdinand... I'm disappointed, basically, because I disliked Moyes as much as anybody else. But I'd like to have heard this when Rio was retired and it had been a few years down the line. You know how you hear about stories about managers and how terrible they were? This is still really ongoing, because David Moyes might not get... We don't know if his career is going to recover yet.
Yeah.
We don't know if he's going to have a swan song with Newcastle and get them in the Europa League, or go off to Germany where he's flirted with the idea of going to Germany. We don't know if he's going to. This guy might be a guy whose career is completely on the downturn as a result of this, and you're just shoving crap his way when he doesn't need it. By all accounts, he's a lovely bloke. Give loads of money to charity, apparently. I know. So. It's a tough one, really. I'm disappointed in Rio Ferdinand for going out with these disrespectful comments, but on the other hand, there is that also of intriguing nature about how it all went wrong so quickly and so ineptly, really. So it's a shame we're ending on a bad note, really.
Yeah.
Rio Ferdinand forced it. Because
have we got anything else positive to say to kind of cheer people up? Because that seems like a bit of a...
Well,
do you remember the shitness?
David Moyes isn't here anymore.
That's a positive.
That's a positive. Van Gaal is here, and he has a philosophy.
He does have a philosophy.
Absolutely. Falcao is here.
Delightful.
Di Maria's here.
Delightful.
We just beat somebody 4-0.
That's
We're
fantastic.
Probably going to win again.
That's encouraging.
And we don't have that pesky Champions League football to get in the way of our...
league glory.
Indeed. We don't have to worry about playing against some of the greatest teams in Europe. But hopefully Ludogorets will do us a favour and beat Liverpool at Anfield. That'd be nice.
That would be hilarious.
So this has been the first episode of the Red Devil Review. I've been Jamie.
I've been Will.
And we'll hopefully see you next week. We won't actually see you at all.
No.
Hopefully you'll hear us next week. And I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you'll enjoy the many other podcasts that we do. Keep watching,
listening.
The skies. No, I was going to say keep watching the skies.
I was going to say listening to the podcast.
Keep listening to the podcast. Okay, cheers guys.
Bye.